So we will then move on to our presentation titled Granthis in Gurdwaras, Challenges and Opportunities, which will be shared by Dr. Satvir Singh. Dr. Satvir Singh is a distinguished educator and researcher specializing in international business, organizational behavior, and law, holding a PhD from the University of Texas at El Paso, an MBA from Willamette University, and a law degree from Punjabi University. His profound understanding of global complexities is multidimensional. Noteworthy for his instruction and mentorship, Dr. Singh significantly influences academia through his numerous publications and presentations. His latest research on the role of Granthis in Gurdwaras, Sikh places of assembly and worship, demonstrates his ongoing contributions to pertinent scholarly discourse. Dr. Satvir Singh.
Right. Good afternoon. Sorry. I'm not used to this. In the classroom, I like to be in the front. Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Satvir Singh. I'm an associate professor of management at Angelo State University in Texas. And I teach mostly human resource management, organizational behavior, which is applied psychology on how to manage employees within organizations. So this idea about this paper was in my mind from a long time, because I go to Gurdwara and I interact with Granthis, and there is not much research on Granthis. So I thought it's linked to my field because Granthis are also employees. So I'm looking at Granthis from management perspective, looking at them as employees of Gurdwaras. Next slide, please. All right, so the agenda for this presentation, I'll be talking about the purpose of this research, important definitions, just basic definitions so that everybody can be on the same page. Research methods, findings, opportunities, and recommendations, and then future research. Next slide. All right, so the purpose, as I already mentioned, the connection with the Gurdwara. I think every Sikh has the connection with Guru. And if you have the connection with Guru, Gurdwara is one of the form where you go and connect with Guru. And there's also a concept of Daswand in Sikhi. And I think I've published like 20 articles. So it was always in my mind to publish one article related to Sikhi or a book. So it's not really 10%, but maybe 5%, right? So I wanted to do that from a long time. So this is one of the efforts. So basically the idea is understanding Gurdwara employees, what motivates them to work there, why they decided to be there, what encouraged them to be there, and what's their purpose. Are they satisfied in what they're doing? Challenges they face in their day-to-day life. It can be their supervision, it can be their colleagues, it can be their interactions with the Sangat, or any other challenges, maybe salary, reward system, all that. Opportunities for improvement. So what can we do? What can I, as a researcher, as a scholar, bring to light that can be fixed and their conditions can be improved? Next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to define a Gurdwara. Everybody knows that, but and I'm going to keep it very simple. So for the purpose of this research, Gurdwara is a Sikh place of worship. Presence of Shri Guru Granth Sahib is needed. It has to be there for it to be called a Gurdwara. A dedicated building has to be there for the purpose of this research. If somebody has Guru Granth Sahib at their home for the purpose of this research, it's not considered a Gurdwara. And they should have at least one employee, one dedicated employee. Definition of a Granthi. There can be many definitions. I know there are different job titles in Gurdwaras, and most of this research is in the U.S., so I'm calling any employee of the Gurdwara a Granthi for the purpose of this research. I know in Gurdwaras in India, there are Granthis. Granthis are different from parties, then Kirtaniyas, then Ardasiyas. For the purpose of this research, everybody who is an employee of a Gurdwara is considered a Granthi. So what's the role of a Granthi? So they can recite Gurbani, they can do Path, they can do Kirtan, Katha, prepare Langar. Some Gurdwaras require them to prepare Langar. So they are Granthis. Next slide. All right, so research methods. So I'm applying, before I go over research methods, I just want to let you know this is an ongoing process, ongoing project. It's a work in progress. It's not complete. So I'm summarizing what I have done so far. So there are two research methods that I'm using. First one is qualitative. And for qualitative research method, I used unstructured interviews with the Granthis. So I just sat with them, talked with them casually to try to find out what's going on. This was important because as a researcher, you also need to build trust with your participant. So when you're talking with them, when asking about, when as a researcher you're asking them about their family, where they are from, you build a level of trust. They start trusting you, and they start sharing some important information with you that is needed for this research. The next research method is the quantitative, empirical part of the research, and for that I developed a survey questionnaire to measure basically their personality, their job attitudes, their perceptions related to their work, Gurdwara climate, what kind of culture they're working in terms of administration and management, and many other things as well. Next. All right, so for data collection, I did site visits during COVID because there was nothing else to do, so I thought, let's go visit Gurdwaras. And moreover, Gurdwaras were empty as well, right? So I thought of that as an opportunity. So 21 Gurdwaras in USA, 8 states. I conducted 32 interviews, 24 survey respondents, and I drove about 3,500 miles. I like to drive, so that wasn't a big deal. Next one. All right. So findings of the qualitative research. So in terms of their job satisfaction, just talking with them, they look satisfied, they feel satisfied because obviously they're Sikhs. And if a Sikh has the opportunity to be with their Guru, which is Guru Granth Sahib, they feel satisfied in that term. But in terms of job, I think they're not very, very satisfied. And that's why I want to get more data, empirical data, to see what's the reason they are not satisfied. I'll be talking about some of the reasons as well. One of the reasons can be perceived respect. So based on my interactions with them, they say, obviously, Sangat, youngsters, and even management, they respect them. It's good, but most of the respect is mostly in words. By word, I mean one of the common words that is used is Guru ka Wazir, right? It's a common word, right? It shows their higher status, which used to be there, right? But now they feel it's just a word, right? So the words are different from actions. So we are calling them Guru Ka Wazir, right? But they are not really treated like Guru Ka Wazir. Then another aspect based on their job is their professional growth. So if they're a Granthi, right, they're going to be Granthi for all their life, right? There is no motivation to do the next thing, right? There's no hierarchy, right? They stay on the same level for years. So that can be another issue for low job satisfaction. Another is talent drain. Because there are better opportunities in America. That's why I put a picture of a truck there, because it's a better paying job, and there's a lot of talent drain. A lot of good kirtaniyas, good tabla players are moving to trucking industry because it's better pay, less control, and they can achieve their American dream aspirations, like buying a house, educating their kids, and all that. Another interesting thing I found out based on my conversations with them is political neutrality. I think that's good because there's a lot of politics in Gurdwaras. So what I found out is they try not to badmouth anybody, right? Because obviously they have to interact with the community, they have to interact with management committees. So politically they're very sensitive. They know what they're doing. So I think that's interesting from research perspective. Next, please. All right, so the quantitative findings, and this is where most of my research is actually. My research is in statistics, analyzing the data and to find out what's going on in the data. So basically, based on the data I collected, it's all males, right? Which is kind of expected. Average age is 40 years, born and educated in India. Here in Canada, it may be different, I'm not sure. But in the US, the Gurdwaras I visited, almost all of them are born and educated in India, married, and have 2 kids on an average. So they have a family. So because I'm curious about data, even though the strength of data is low, I just ran some analysis to find some interesting relationships. So I'm just sharing some graphs with you, some simple graphs. So for example, so the first one I'm showing the relationship between climate of involvement and turnover intentions. So turnover intentions is they're looking for another job, another career, right? They want to quit and find something else. They're not quitting yet, but that's in their mind. So I'm measuring that, asking them questions about that. And then climate of involvement is how much they are involved in the Gurdwara, right? So it can be interacting with the Sangat, interacting with colleagues, interacting with the leadership, the committees and all that, and also involvement in the decision making, maybe a little bit. So as the graph shows there, so turnover intentions go down with increased climate of involvement. So the more you involve Granthis in your decision making, right? Even though Granthis are not deciding, but you're asking for their opinion, right? Their turnover intentions go down, which is good, right? So even though this is not conclusive, but we can say when you involve Granthis in decision making, you ask them some questions related to what should we do, what should we talk about. They get more involved, and that decreases their intention to quit. Another one is the opposite relationship, which is climate of involvement and flexibility and turnover intentions. Climate of innovation. So involvement is good, but whenever you ask them to innovate, like, come up with a new rag, right? Or give us something new on how to conduct marriage ceremonies or something new, right? They don't like it because it's a very traditional profession, right? It's not Microsoft, it's not AI, where we are asking them, come up with something new, think outside the box. So they like thinking within the box, within the parameters. And whenever you ask them, think outside the box, they're like, I'm going away, I'm quitting, right? Even though we are not doing it, right? But that doesn't go with the traditions of the profession, because the traditions of the profession is we have Sikh Maryada, right? And they follow the traditions, and they don't like to be innovative and flexible. And next, please. All right, so some opportunities and recommendations. First one is obvious because there is no gender diversity. So as a community, we need to work on that. First, we have to find reasons why women are not going in the profession, what are the hurdles, and work towards increasing gender diversity. Next opportunity and recommendation as well is to prioritize, not the next slide, prioritize local hiring. And I think we need to do a lot of work in that, because in my interactions with Granthis, I didn't see any local people, no youngsters, nobody who is from America, who is born and raised in America. So I think committees need to start thinking about what we can do in terms of their pay structure, in terms of their reward system, so that our youngsters, I know in our schools, in Khalsa schools, and even today we saw them playing Tanti Saj. We have people who pursue this as a hobby, right? But they are not wanting to pursue this as a profession. So we need to focus on that what are the hurdles, and how can we make the profession more lucrative. Support their family responsibilities. So based on the data, they have family, they have kids. So what can committees and community do to support their families? That can be part of the reward system as well, and that can help as well. Next, please. Again, promoting respectful treatment, and this can be hard work, because I think in North America, we are so engaged in our own work, we don't really see that is happening. Most of the time, it may be unintentional, right? So there is a need for more training, more education in community, so that they can learn how to treat our Granthis, parties, Kirtaniyas, who is doing very important job in our communities. Transform Gurdwaras into learning centers, and that can be part of professional development as well. Because when Gurdwara is just Sunday thing, right, there's less development opportunities. When you include more things like teaching Tanti Saj, right, or teaching Gurbani, or giving Santhya, there are multiple things going on in the Gurdwara. And there can be reward system that can be related to that. So if a Granthi is doing more than one thing, right, their salary should be different. So if we attach rewards to the kind of work they're doing, obviously there's going to be that professional development as well, and there's going to be more motivation to do more things. address external pay disparities. So because they are leaving the profession for better paying professions, so increasing their salaries can be a good solution to address that issue. Next, please. All right, so future direction, as I said, this is still work in progress. So what I want to do, because presently the survey is in English, and that's why I have to be there in person to sit with them and translate the survey and get their responses. So what I want to do eventually is to translate the survey in Gurmukhi and make an online survey so that everybody can access it, and then send them the link so that they can respond to the survey. And that way it will be easier to collect data rather than me driving 3,500 miles, right? I can be home and they can be inputting their surveys. Then eventually analyze the data to make any conclusive claims. And if possible, if I get a lot of output from the data, I would also like to publish a handbook for Granthi management, because a lot of our committees don't know how to manage employees or manage Granthis. So a small little handbook that they can read to guide them on how to manage Granthis. Next. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. We have some time for maybe 2 or 3 very quick questions. Again, if you could introduce yourself, that would be very helpful. And we will try and get to all questions. But I promise you, we are going to lunch right after this. He will be here for lunch. You can catch him outside as well to have a more personal conversation.
My name is Ajit Singh Sahota. You are really doing a very good job. It's something that must be discussed. Please change the name of your project, Guru Ke Wazir. It's bad. It must not be there like that. I have been listening to this things. Basically, Granthi is an attendant in the presence of the Guru. And most of these Granthis who come, they are not very well educated. They don't even know Gurbani very well. They learn a little bit of Satvir or whatever, and they can't even pronounce the Gurbani very well. Guru Ke Wazir, this Akal Tak Jathedar, I have heard him, Baba Banta Singh, and so many other high kathakars saying Bahla Sahib Gurdwara Granthi Ranjit Singh Guru Ka Wazir. Guru does not need any wazir, any salahkar. Ape sahib, aap wazir. ਰੱਬ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਸਲਾਹ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਨਹੀਂ, ਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਸਲਾਹ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕੋਈ ਵਜ਼ੀਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੀ। ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ it needs lot of improvement. ਐਂਡ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੱਖ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਪਤਾ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਡਿਕਸੀ ਰੋਡ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਐਸੇ ਲਾਰਜੈਸਟ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਉਹ ਸਟੈਬਲਿਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ। ਆਪ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਆਪ ਹੀ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ। ਇਹ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਇਹ ਸੇਵਾ ਆ। ਇਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਏ ਜੋਬ ਇਜ਼ ਸਿੰਪਲੀ ਸੇਵਾ। ਅਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਤਾਂ ਇੰਨੇ ਮੀਨਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਲਰਨ ਕਰਨੇ ਦੇ ਔਨ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਟ ਹੋਰ ਸਭ ਥਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀ ਬਣਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ। ਗੁਰੂ ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਮਝਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਜੀ, ਥੈਂਕਸ ਫॉर योर फीडबैक। I just want to correct you. The name of the project is not Guru Ka Wazir. That's a slide. That's what people call them. The name of the project is not Guru Ka Wazir.
So I'll just ask my question. I also want to thank you for taking on this project, because I think it's a very little researched, if at all, especially in the diaspora, so in Canada and America. Yes. My question is more looking at the how power operates amongst Granthis. So there's two things. One is in Canada that I've seen. So I've worked for 12 years at the Heritage Gurdwara in Abbotsford, and I've seen how the committees have abused the Granthis in many, many ways.
Yeah.
And abused also because of caste. Many of the Granthis who come are caste oppressed. And second, abused because of their precarious situation in terms of citizenship, right? PR, whatever status that they have come here means that they're often abused and abused by the Gurdwara committees, which are so problematic as it is, in terms of how they treat the Granthis. So did you see that in terms of caste and then their precarious status in what you did in your research? And thank you for it.
Thank you. Thanks. That's a very good question. Caste discrimination, that wasn't my focus. I did not talk about it. Maybe there is, right? I know, even in Sikhism, we have caste discrimination, right? So, and you talked about abuse. I can sense and feel the abuse, but they don't want to talk about it because they are in the process, right? They're waiting for their green cards, their permanent residents, right? And technically, I want to correct you again, they're employees, they're on employment visa, right? So technically, they're employees of the Gurdwara. So definitely there is abuse. Here in North America, all over the world, even in India, right? I would say it can be one of the most abused profession, right? There's not a lot of research. Don't quote me on my statement, but it can be, right? And that's why there is need for more research. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Sukhvinder Kaur. My question is, we got rid of the Masand system, and it wasn't just because of money mismanagement. It was because of people feeling they had power over Sikhs, and a lot. That's a struggle many faiths have. Is people in that are in the cleric position, Granthi position, can then abuse and insert themselves as a barrier between the practitioner and Paramatma. Right? Yeah. So I'm curious, this system, like you're looking at having a guidebook, for management and how to manage Granthis, are you looking at all of making sure this doesn't become like another Masanda system of giving these people power over the Sangat? Is any of that, are you incorporating that?
Actually, Granthis don't have any power. That's the issue, right? Gurdwara committees have more power, right? And that's why in my recommendation I said we in Canada it's our third or fourth generation, right? Why don't we have any Canadian Granthis? Do we have any? I'm not sure.
Baji, actually, I'll tell you, I'm born and raised here. It's because we were taught that the Gurdwaras are run by the Sangat. So we learn Prachar, not as a profession, but as volunteers. New West Gurdwara's got a huge pool of young children who help run the Gurdwara. Yeah. So yes, we do.
Yeah, that's good, right? Sangat's involvement is important, but you have to have a full-time person who is there, right? And Granthis are those people, they're providing those services, right? As a service to Gurdwara, you can be there on your, based on your, let's say you can only be there on Sunday, right? You cannot be there on Monday. Somebody has to be there on Monday, and that's going to be a paid employee, right? And that's going to be a Granthi, right? But why our kids are not choosing this profession? That's my question, right? We want to do seva. I want to do seva, right? Do I want my kid to be a Granthi? No. Do a Granthi want his or her kid to be a Granthi? No, right? Why so? So the bigger question is why, right? And it can be abuse, it can be salary, it can be many other things.
My name is Gurbal Singh. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to speak here. My question is, do you believe it has something to do with the capitalism too? Because the Granthis don't seem to be putting any value to the GDP scale and something like that. And second question is, not specifically to you, but to all the Sikh scholars. We already see Granthis play CDs and YouTube videos in Gurdwaras. Do we need a Granthi position, first of all? And if we really need, can we replace it with robots and AI technology in future?
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, last question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I hope there is a world where everything is run by AI, but right now, no AI. You cannot, in my courses, the first question I ask, can you think of a company that doesn't have an employee, right? That doesn't have a human being. We are not there yet, right? And I don't see that in the near future, right? But there may be a time when the world is run by AI and we don't need anybody there, right? Everybody can be sitting in their rooms and doing meditation, right? That's it. Okay.
Last question. Last question only. Presentation was damn good. 2 questions ने मेरे. Either questions नहीं है, कुछ मेरे आप दिया insights ने. First, in the quantitative slide, तुसी कहा कि Granthis, all men. Is there any women also in any country?
There may be, but I haven't found any.
In Punjab. In Punjab? Okay, right. Okay, right. दूसरी ਗੱਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀਸ ਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਰਿਸਰਚ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. ਇੱਕ ਐਸਪੈਕਟ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਆ ਐਗਰੀਕਲਚਰ ਦਾ, ਮੇਰੀ ਸੈਲਰੀ ਘੱਟ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ, ਮੇਰਾ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਆ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਉਸ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ, ਮੈਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਖੁਸ਼ ਨੇ. ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੇ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀਸ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੈਲਰੀ ਘੱਟ ਆ, ਕੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅਪ ਬ੍ਰਿੰਗਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆ? ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖੀਜ਼ਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਪਾਠ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਵੀ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ.
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਮਨੀ ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਨਾਟ ਮੈਟਰਸ. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਫਿਰ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ.
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਤੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਵਿਊ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਹੈ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀਸ ਦੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ? ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਮਿਲੇ ਆ ਉਸ ਤੇ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਪੈਸੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਹੀ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ?
ਨਹੀਂ, ਬਹੁਤ ਪੈਸ਼ਨੇਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਰਾਈਟ, ਪੈਸ਼ਨੇਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ. And I think one of the main reason many of them are there still doing the job is because of the passion, right? क्योंकि वैसे गुरु ग्रंथ, let's say मैं गुरु ग्रंथ साहब पढ़ना, तो I have to put in an effort, right? I have to make time for it. But ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ it's a motivation that ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਬਾਣੀਆਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਨੀਆਂ, ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪੜ੍ਹਨਾ, ਮੈਂ ਮੈਡੀਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨੀ. So they are in that aura, you know. The passion ਤਾਂ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ. ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਸਰਵਿਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਐਕਸਟਰਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਘੱਟ ਪੈਸੇ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੇ, ਬਟ ਇਟਸ देयर ਸਰਵਿਸ, ਰਾਈਟ. ਤਾਂ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਵੈਨ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਇਨ ਅਮੈਰੀਕਾ, ਰਾਈਟ, ਯੂ ਸੀ ਅਦਰ ਪੀਪਲ, ਸੰਗਤ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ BMWs, Mercedes, right, and they give you a broken Toyota, right, which is good because they're coming from India, they're getting a car, right. Their needs are met, right, but aspirations ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਕੁਛ, right. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਕਈ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀਸ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ. ਉਹ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਘਰ ਹੋਵੇ, ਮੇਰੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵੀ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀਜ਼ ਜਾਣ, ਰਾਈਟ, AI ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ, you know, all that. Aspirations, when they are here, they're one of us, right? They have the same aspiration.
There are a few more things to discuss. We will discuss it over lunch. Thank you.
Again, any further questions, I encourage you to meet up during our lunch break, which we will be going to in a minute. I just wanted to acknowledge we are very lucky to have